Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the YouTube channel. Today we are going to do something kind of fun and small, but primarily I wanted just to thank everybody for subscribing and watching the videos. As of recording, we are currently at 52 subscribers. So to me that feels like a pretty big milestone, 50, increment of 10, halfway to 100. And I know on the grand scheme of YouTube, it's very small compared to channels with millions of subscribers and hundreds and thousands of subscribers, a lot more than what we have here. But for a channel that I'm not really promoting that much, and I'm just trying to grow organically and put out some content and have people interact with it, yeah, I feel like it's a good spot to be at. So I'm happy with how things are going. Hopefully we can continue to grow and build a community where people can come and talk and chat about books and writing. It's been fun so far. So the goal for this year is just to keep making more videos. So we'll see how we do. I wanted to touch on a few of the books on my shelf that I have in physical copies with me right now that I read last year that I enjoyed. So not really a year in books recap, but just kind of here's some of the books that I read. Not all of them did I do reviews for, because some of them I read before I started the channel. And I don't have all the books with me right now. I've been lending some of them out to other people, to friends and family. So not everything that I've read that I could talk about do I have. And some of the stuff that I read, is either a library book or an ebook. And I listen to audiobooks as well. So I don't have all that stuff, but we're just gonna grab a few here and we're gonna talk about some of those very briefly, quickly, just to have a fun little quick review of some of these books. So starting out in no particular order as far as ranking these or in the order that I read them throughout the year. This is actually the last book that I made a review of, Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. Yeah, this is fantastic. You can check out my review. I enjoyed this a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. Good Viking story without using the word Viking once. We also have Animal Farm. I read this last year as well. This is the first time that I read this book, but very short, quick little read. George Orwell, obviously 1984, I think is the one that people would say is like, that's the big George Orwell book. But this one I actually think is better. I think there's something about the animals that's almost more relatable in a weird way. But yeah, this is really good. I enjoyed this a lot. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. It's just brilliant. If that was the only sentence in this whole book, it's a good book. So this is a good one. Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is fantastic. I love this. I love this book. I had a lot of fun reading this. I think it's the best of the first trilogy, the first 3 books. I've not read beyond this, so I haven't read 4, 5, and 6, and then 7's coming out at some point. But this is the one that I think is, the pinnacle. I think if you read the first book and you don't love it, you're not enthralled by it, you think maybe it's too derivative or something, I think stick with it, because this book, I haven't read a book like this. So this is the best of the 3. It's fantastic. Next we've got Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I read this at the start of last year, February or March or something. This is fun. This is a fun, quick, kind of speedy read. It's just, and I guess we'll give a little bit of a content warning. This is Neil Gaiman, so all of the allegations and everything that have come out, all the things that seem pretty heinous, and then his response, just all that drama. Not to get into it, but if you're not a Neil Gaiman fan, which makes sense, and you don't want to read his stuff, totally fine. I think you can have, you can read or not read anything for any reason. But on the merits of the book itself, I think this is one that's pretty entertaining, pretty good to read. It fits well within the catalog of his other things that aren't American Gods, yeah, it's got a little window on the cover, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, just a fun little adventure, alternate. I don't want to say alternate history, but kind of just alternate real world, magical realism, if you will. So this is a fun one if you can get past the author. We also have Stephen King, You Like It Darker. This was this collection of short stories that he put out at the spring of last year. I think this was March or May. I'm not exactly sure. This is my very first YouTube video. I made this one sometime in the summer. I like this book a lot. There's a lot of really good stories in here. Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream is one of the best stories I've ever read across stories in general. and it's a longer one. I think it's like half the book, but this is really, really good. So it's not scary. It's not really that spooky. There's like one scene in one of the stories that it's kind of scary, but otherwise it's just real stuff. And I think that's something I'm discovering more with Stephen King, is that he's not really a scary author. He's not really a horror author. And certainly there's horrifying things that happen in some of his books, but it's more like situational. And even like the ones that have a monster or something, like the pitch is a scary thing. It's more about the characters and the things that they're dealing with. And obviously that's what makes him so great, is that it's character driven, something that we can relate to. But this one, 19 stories. I believe there's 19. It's really good. I recommend this one if you're looking for a collection to pick up. We also have The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury. This one, I have a video on this one. This is really good. This is very short, very quick. Everything kind of, sort of connects together. It's an interesting idea. A guy who has tattoos on his skin, as you can see by the cover. I won't give much more than that because, you know, it's early on, but it would spoil. Just a quick little information thing in the beginning of the book. But this is a fun one. Ray Bradbury, one of my all-time favorites. I've got a couple more of his books in physical copy that I need to get to. I just think he's incredible. So that's a good one. We've also got The Gunslinger by Stephen King. I've read this one before, but I cycled back around and I have a video talking about, I think, did I make the video? Yeah, I have a video. I have a video talking about revisions and updated versions. And I think this one it's an interesting project, but this is a great story. I think this is the whole Dark Tower story is really good. That whole narrative is really good. This is sort of it's very interesting, kind of a weak opening, but it makes sense with the whole rest of the thing. So again, it's if you're convinced that you're going to read the whole series, totally fine. If you think I'm going to read the first one and then decide from there on, you might not read the rest of them, but you might love this one and then be disappointed because the rest aren't exactly like it. So great cover, by the way, really good cover. Next, another one that I read, the biggest fantasy book that I read this year, this last year, 2024, Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is just a massive, massive thing. And it doesn't really look like I read it. I try to keep the spines in good shape. And I bought it used, but it was in good shape when I bought it. But I made a review of this one as well. You can check that one out. It's very long. It's too long in my opinion, but it has some really, really good payoff. And I saw a meme that said something about like the first, I think it was just the end. It was like the last 200 pages of a Brandon Sanderson novel. And it was that scene from Pirates of the Caribbean where the colonel, the commander character, is like walking through the ship as it's being destroyed. I'll put it up on the screen. And you'll kind of see what I'm explaining. But yeah, that's basically what I feel like for Brandon Sanderson books. It's just a bunch of stuff that is kind of boring and historical and scientific. And if you're interested in that, it's great. But if you're not, it's boring until the very end. And then it's just a ton of action and everything goes really quickly. So still, I think this one's worth reading if you're in for the long haul. If you want to read something shorter, go for it. It's a lot to get to. And there's just more. There's a lot more. This is book 2. So, but then we got The Long Walk by Stephen King to round out what I have here with me. This is a good book. Different. I mean, it is what it says it is. You know, The Long Walk, the whole book is walking. It's a character walking. It's a futuristic contest kind of story. Yeah, it kind of hits you. It gets you. It's got an ending that's okay. I don't think it's like the best ending. It's one of the Richard Bachman endings. That's, writing as Richard Bachman. So if you've read Thinner, I think that I'm blanking on other Richard Bachman ones, but it's kind of a similar kind of feel, a bleak kind of story, but I think it's worth reading. I think it's interesting. The language is pretty cool in it, and it talks about humanity. So classic Stephen King. Nothing scary in this book. I could go through the ones that I've read of all these Stephen King books and find, I'm convinced he's not really a horror author. He's like a suspense thriller author. He's just a person. He's just a human. He's just an American author. I don't know. Very good. One of my favorite authors, but I don't know that he's really a horror author. And maybe I've just not read any horror to compare it to and go, oh yeah, he actually absolutely is. That's just all the genre is. But my thought is like horror it's scary for the sake of being scary. Like that's the appeal. And there's nothing scary in this other than like the broad but that's just science fiction in general. Like, this is a science fiction story. There's science fiction stories in this, you know, kind of in like a Black Mirror type thing where it's like, oh, that's cautionary. But it's, you know, beyond that, I don't know. It's as scary as the road, by Cormac McCarthy. Anyway, that's a group of them. I think that's like 8 or 9 books that I just breezed through quickly. Yeah, thanks again for subscribing and watching and following along. All the comments, I appreciate it. I try to reply. I feel like I've probably missed a few, but we're just having fun putting stuff out. Yeah, we're gonna have more reviews coming. We've got a couple guests that we'll have on. Nobody like famous, but friends and family. So we'll just keep doing stuff, have more updates on some of the projects that I'm working on writing wise as they come up, and we'll make more videos. So thanks again. I've said it multiple times. Thanks again for subscribing and watching. 52 subscribers, all the way to the moon. Let's continue on.